Contraceptives is a very important topic because we see that in the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, and all of the poskim, there is no leniency to have an abortion unless there's pikuach nefesh, unless there's a life risk, unless the mother is going to die if she delivers the baby. There's also no leniency, which means that you can't just have a kid immediately right away sometimes, because if the woman is not healthy and her getting pregnant is going to put her in danger, then what do you do? If you can't kill the baby, what do you do? On the same token, there's no leniency as far as wasting seed. Not allowed to waste seed. So, what can you do? Now, wearing a condom is asur. It's not allowed. And the reason why is because a condom is a contraceptive that destroys the seed. So it's 100% wasting seed. Ejaculating outside of the woman's body is also 100% asur, 100% forbidden. No permission to do either one of those. Now, what happens when a man is married to his wife? They just had a kid, and Baruch Hashem, a couple of months have passed after she delivered the baby. She now went back to the mikveh. She's Torah. She's healthy, but she's able to be intimate with her husband, but she's not able to have a child. It's dangerous for her to have a child. So what do? So there are a couple of things that are allowed. Of course, you always have to get rabbinical permission. You have to get a Talmid Chacham that knows you well, tell you that you're allowed, but this is generally accepted things. One, at that time, a woman is allowed to take the pill, because the pill does not destroy the seed 100%, and it's not destroyed on the male side, it's destroyed on the female side. And two, there's also a suppository or different types of gels that the woman can put in her area that will allow her to be intimate with her husband, but also decrease, not eliminate, but decrease the chances of this consummating into a child.
That's allowed.
That's allowed. But again, it's allowed under rabbinical supervision. Meaning, not that the rabbi has to go into bed with you, chas v'shalom. This is, believe it or not, you have to explain this stuff. One woman came to my rabbanit, came to my wife, and told her, I'm kind of nervous. I'm going to the mikveh for the first time. I said, why are you nervous? She said, why are you nervous? She goes, they're going to check me. He goes, what do you mean you're going to check you? She thought that the b'dika clause, the woman over there checks herself. She didn't know anything about talat mishpacha, that you check yourself. Nobody touches you, chas v'shalom. So people don't know this stuff. What's common sense to the religious Jew is not common sense to the average person. So, and sometimes even religious Jews don't know, because they don't learn all this stuff. Point being is that what rabbinical supervision means is that you have to go to Talmid Chacham and ask for permission of being allowed to use this. You can't just use pills or different types of creams or suppositories for the women whenever you feel like it, because you don't feel like having a kid. You have to be allowed to not have a kid, meaning that you having a kid right now would be dangerous. So perhaps she just had a baby a couple of months ago, so it's commonly accepted for you to wait a year to 2 years between children. How do you decide whether it's going to be a year, 2 years, or even less? All depending on the health of the woman. If her physical and mental health are okay, she could have a baby right away if she wants. There's no she has to wait a year or 2 years. If she's physically and mentally healthy, she could have a baby right away. But if she's not, she's a little older perhaps, and it takes her longer to recover, or she's younger but she's weak, or whatever the case is, and it takes her 2 years to recover. The Gemara says it could take up to 2 years for a woman's body to recover from giving birth. So you have up to that 2 year mark. You have to get verification again from that Talmid Chacham that knows who you are. It says, okay, you're allowed. We'll review again in 6 months. We'll review again in a year. Not just like blanket statement. Good luck, have fun, see you in 2 years. Like your passport, you check it once every 10 years. No, we don't do that in Judaism. You have to regularly meet with this Talmid Chacham to make sure that everything is still okay, she still is not able, and so on and so forth. But if she's physically able, and there's nothing mentally wrong with her, but she doesn't have emunah, Or a husband doesn't have emunah because he says, listen, we already have a boy and a girl. What do we need another kid for? It's like, can't we just get a dog? It's cheaper. That's forbidden. That's forbidden. You're not allowed to just not have kids. Not allowed to just not have kids. You're supposed to have kids. You're supposed to reproduce. Now, if it's a bigger problem if you don't have both a boy and a girl. There's more leniency for people that have a boy and a girl because they fulfilled the mitzvah of pu'ubu. Pu'ubu is having a boy and a girl. But if you did not fulfill the mitzvah of pu'ubu, you have much, much more stringency. Meaning much more limitations. Point being is that you have to go with a Talmid Chacham that's an expert in this field. Not just anybody that has a shul. Your local rabbi may be a nice guy, may know a lot of Gemara, may know a lot of different things, but this may not be his expertise. You have to go to somebody that is very good at this specific area. And is not a pushover. Also, he has to have Yirat Shamayim. He's not going to tell you whatever answer you want to be told. Because it's a very, very touchy subject and it's very dangerous. Baruch Hashem, there's a few people that we've helped over the years with this issue, and Baruch Hashem it's helped them a lot because it's a subject that's not very easy to talk about. It's not very comfortable to talk about it sometimes. But nonetheless, it's a very, very critical part of Judaism. Also, another issue is that you have to make sure that your wife is not scared of you. If you are a husband that scares his wife, the Gemara says, for sure your wife will end up violating the entire Torah because of you. Why? Some husbands want to be macho, so they like to yell at everybody in their house. So their whole house is scared to death of them. As soon as the husband comes to the house, everybody's scared to death. Everybody becomes like soldiers. So this is a problem. Why? Because what ends up happening is that the woman has to go to the mikveh every month. Now, sometimes stuff happens and she forgets, or the place is closed, or something happens and she doesn't go. And if she's scared of her husband, she's not going to tell him the truth. Oh, listen, honey, I didn't go to the mikveh today. Well, I'll go tomorrow. Why? Because she's scared he's going to, hang her like a picture. Because he can't touch her until she goes to the mikveh. So what happens? She tells him, no, everything is good. Let's have fun. Right? Let's have fun. Mitzvah. What mitzvah? It's a Shemer Achem. Touch a nida, it's Isur Karet. He touches his wife's finger even when she didn't go to the mikveh. It's Karet. So now, when the wife is scared of the husband, she's not going to tell him. Same thing is, if a wife is scared of the husband, she's also going to violate Shabbat, the Gemara says. Why? Because sometimes something happens and the plata gets turned off by itself. If she's scared of the husband, what's she going to do? She's going to turn it back on Shabbat. Why? Because she's scared if he wakes up in the morning and the food's not ready, he's going to cook her. Because she's scared of him. So what does she do? She sees in the middle of the night that the food is not hot because the plata turned off, or it broke, or something happened. She'll turn it back on and violate Shabbat for him. Guess what? That's asur. That food becomes asur. It's like eating taref. So a husband needs to know that yes, you're supposed to make sure that your house is led with Yirat Shamayim, but Yirat Shamayim, not Yirat the husband. Not supposed to be scared of the husband. Supposed to, have your house in a certain way. But nonetheless, this also means that your wife has to be comfortable to talk to you and to the rabbi about these specific issues that are uncomfortable. But if you have one of these relationships where your wife doesn't talk to you about anything about her, because she feels like every time she said something to you, you start acting like a little boy and treat it like as if it's disgusting, or you don't really want to know what's happening with her private part because you only need to know what to do and not necessarily what happens there, this is a problem. Why? Because she needs to talk to somebody. Now, David HaMelech was the rabbi, even though he was the king, he was the rabbi in the community that would check the bdika cloth. A woman sometimes checks, and she doesn't know if she's nida or not, because it's a certain shade of color that's questionable. So what happens when it's questionable? You have to take it to a Talmid Chacham. You have to take this bdika cloth, take it to a Talmid Chacham, and usually you do it anonymously, where you leave it in a certain area, you leave, you come back the next day, and you pick it up. No one knows it's you. Most Jewish communities have this. So David HaMelech was the one that would check the bdika cloth. to show you how great this mitzvah is of being a Talmid Chacham in a specific area and knowing what to do, and how, chas v'shalom, never to be disgusted or anything like that. Again, this may not necessarily be the most ideal conversation for husband and wife, but nonetheless, it's very important for the wife to feel comfortable with the husband about these issues, or at least for the husband to provide a community and a place where the wife is not uncomfortable or by herself, because what's going to happen is that the wife will eventually end up becoming so nonchalant about it, she'll end up not going to the mikveh at all. Now, if people don't think this is a problem, there was a research that came out of the modern Orthodox community in 2017. And that said that out of his research that he did, 48% of modern Orthodox, meaning the so-called religious but modern Orthodox Jews, 48% do not go to the mikveh. That means that 52% go to the mikveh, 48% don't go to the mikveh. That means that half the kids coming from the modern Orthodox world are coming from Nida. This is a disaster. This is like you brought a idol into the Bet HaMikdash. The Isur Nida is so critical that it's the only thing that the Bet Din will give a person a get on the spot. Meaning, if a guy comes to the Bet Din, says, listen, I don't want to be with my wife anymore. Why? Why don't you want? She makes me angry. Well, sorry, that's not a valid reason to get her divorced. Go back, fix it. Go to a rabbi, he'll give you some counseling. Go back to your wife. Oh, I don't like my wife. Why? She spends too much money. That's not a valid reason. Go try it again. Oh, I don't like my wife. She doesn't want to keep Shabbat. Sorry, it's not a valid reason. Get her to do tshuva. Come to Rabbi Yaron Reuven's shiur with her. She'll do tshuva after a week. But what if you come to your rabbi and say, listen, Bedin, my wife doesn't want to go to the mikveh. On the spot, they give him a get. On the spot, they give him a get. Why? Without her going to the mikveh, there's no marriage. There's no marriage. There are exceptions to the case that have been done randomly, but generally speaking, that's the way the Bet Din is. Bet Din sees a wife doesn't want to go to mikveh, there's no marriage. No marriage at all. Why? Can't touch her finger even. Which means that if people are openly admitting to being Shomrei Shabbat, but at the same time not going to the mikveh, we have a very, very serious problem in the religious community, in non-religious community, in the whole community, because when a person is with his wife and she's nida, creates a very problematic child. Plus a very problematic olam haba. So in regards to contraceptives, in regards to that whole issue, there's a shiur I did called Kosher Intimacy. Watch that shiur, because intimacy is something that has to be something a person needs to be very careful with. We're not the goyim. We're not people that just do whenever we feel like it. We're not animals. It's even important to know that there are certain consequences for doing certain things. For example, I heard from Rav Meir Eliyahu that the Gemara says, actually, that I think the Zohar says, that the Rambam writes that it's not allowed for a man and his wife to be together during the day, with certain exceptions. If he's a Talmid Chacham and he knows how to darken the room, and he knows not to do it ever again like that, there's a permission to be together during the day. But that's only for a Talmid Chacham that knows the certain exceptions and only a one-off situation. But generally speaking, you're not allowed to be with your wife during the day. But he says, what if somebody does it during the day, but follows suit, follows the halakha, darkens the room? It's the same thing as if it's dark outside. Doesn't make a difference. The room is so dark, you don't know if it's dark or it's light. It's nothing. He follows suit, and he's with his wife during the day. The Sfarim HaKadoshim says, okay, you could do it, but just to let you know, the kid, if a kid comes out of it, that kid will suffer his whole life. All types of suffering, money problems, health problems, all types of problems. Why is it the kid's fault? It's not the kid's fault. He did something in his previous incarnation that he deserves to suffer. You did something in current incarnation, so that's why you get the kid. Mix and match, like a puzzle. Gabazu, you did this? Okay, so that's the kid that's going to come to you. Fits. That's the kid that comes. So there are certain things that are allowed but not recommended. There's a mitzvah yefat toar, where there's a woman that if there's a war and you conquer the enemy, and when you're in war, everybody's a bunch of guys, everybody's got their hormones through the roof, and the soldiers see a beautiful woman, they're not looking, listen, are you dating anyone? They're not asking that. They just killed our husband 2 minutes ago. So there's a mitzvah in the Torah that says that if you see a woman that's beautiful at the end of a war, after you've won the war, and you see a beautiful woman that husband is dead, family is dead, you are allowed to convert her and marry her. So David HaMelech, one of his 18 wives, was like this. But then the son that came out of it was Avshalom, who tried to kill him when he grew up. So David HaMelech cried to Hashem, Hashem, how come you gave me such a kid who wants to kill me? Hashem tells David HaMelech, look what you did. You married a woman that's a woman as a result of the battle. He goes, yeah, but Hashem, you allowed it. You wrote it in the law. It's allowed to do this. He says, yeah, I wrote it allowed, but it's not recommended. Look at the very next thing that I put in my Torah, right after the issue, the explanation of the woman from the battle. Right after it, I say, what? I say that there's going to be a wayward child. The reason why they're connected to each other is because if you do this with this woman, a wayward child will come from there. So yeah, there are certain things that are allowed, but not recommended. Not recommended. And this happens a lot in life. There's a lot of things that are allowed, but not recommended. And that's what a person needs to know. That's how you measure your Yirat Shamayim and also your Torah knowledge. If you are going anywhere that has a kosher sign, you're probably doing a lot of things that are not recommended. And sometimes not even allowed. Sometimes you go to a wedding and it says kosher on the kitchen, but the only thing that's kosher is the kosher. The sign itself is kosher. The food itself, not kosher. Because they don't know anything. And they cook on Shabbat. The owner is a mechalel Shabbat. No one really watches where did he get the meat bechlal. Maybe he got a discount from the Arabs. And that's what happens. So the only thing that's really kosher is the sign, not the food.